Okay, the first thing you're going to do is download all the elements that you're going to use in the project and open them all up in Photoshop. Not that, but that. Open with Photoshop. Open with Photoshop. Open with Photoshop. Then you're also going to create a new Photoshop document with the HD TV settings that are located under the Film and Video preset. So go to Preset, Film and Video, change the size to HD TV 1080p 29.97, which is what we use in our TV studio during our news show, and change it to a transparent background and give it a name like Willis News Graphic. Notice it has the title safe area, which is where you want all your text and important images to fit inside of this middle box. Now you want to copy the layers or the elements from the other images, like the backdrop, into your new document. So I'm going to hit Command A to select everything, Command C to copy it, go to the new graphic that you've created and hit Command V to paste it. And notice when I pasted it, it came out too big. If you want to resize it, then you can hit Command T, and you've got the handles now to resize it and move it around. Or you can go up here to the contextual bar and resize it. Although if you want to change both the width and the height at the same time, turn on the link button there, and I'm going to make this about 75%. Make sure it's more or less centered up there. And then I'm going to copy the anchor. Again, it's Command A, Command C, Command V, and Command T to size it up. The person's head should go towards the top of this blue line, but not touch the top of the edge of the image. And if you hold down Shift as you resize this, it will keep it in the correct aspect ratio. And this is a really awful picture, so enjoy that. Hit Enter to lock in the free transform that you did with Command T. Next, you'll want to remove the background from the anchor photo, which is either you or somebody else. A couple ways to do that. You could try the magic wand tool, and by manipulating the tolerance here, you might get some quick ways to select parts of the area with the magic wand and then shift click and add to those areas. This is actually working pretty good right now. But it'd take a while to get everything. Or you can use the magnetic lasso. So change this to magnetic lasso, the bottom of the lasso tools. And be sure you start just off of the page so you can expand the canvas here a little bit. And start just off of the image down here. And then just start outlining your image there. And if you stay close to the borders there, it should go right over it. Sometimes hair can be a bit of a problem. You can fix it up later with the eraser tool or some other method of cleaning that up. So go all the way around your image, down over the shoulders, and then cut across the bottom of the page. You might want to put a point out there. Put some points across the bottom. And that's got that selected. I'm going to hit Enter to lock it in. And in this case, since I've already got it over the backdrop, what I'm going to do is invert the selection. So now I've got everything that's not me selected, and I'm going to hit Delete. So now I'm sitting at the news desk, very awkwardly. And I can use any of the selection tools to deselect now. And you notice how my body's kind of cut off at the bottom. So to fix that, I'm just going to expand it a little bit off the bottom of the page with free transform, which is Command T. Okay, now you want to create a few new layers and then maybe rename these by double clicking on the word layer 1, call it backdrop, name layer 2 anchor, and then create some new layers entitled, let's see my list here, full screen background, bar, OTS, and OTS pick. Okay, so I'm going to label this one full screen background. If you get this, just cancel it or OK it. It means you just double clicked over here instead of over here. Full screen background, OTS. I'm actually going to call this lower third bar. That's where we'll put titles and names. And then I'll make another one called OTS bar. And then I need another one called OTS pick. And I'm going to now go to the full screen background, and we're going to make a full screen gradient to cover all this up. This time I'm going to use some nice kind of deep blue colors and make a gradient that covers up everything, and that's where you would put full screen text items like websites or contact info. And I'm going to go to the gradient tool. You may have the paint bucket turned on initially. Just change it over to the gradient tool and pick out which gradient you want to use. I'm going to try this one this time. And that's not the one I want to use because I don't want it to fade to black. I want it to fade, or to transparent. I want it to fade from foreground to background. So pick where we want that to work. You see how there's a dark blue spot? It's kind of the opposite of what I wanted. So I'm going to try the opposite this time. I'm just going to switch these colors. Okay, so it's got kind of a gray spot in the middle. Nothing fancy here, but we're going to turn on a texture with a filter. So go to filter and texture, and usually I go to texturizer, but you can pick any of these. And it brings up the texturizer plugin. There's a few different looks to this. Kind of preview how that looks. I'm going to try this one this time, but I'm going to make those squares bigger. You can make them stick out more or less. I feel like less. It's like bathroom tile. So now I've got my full screen background started, but I'm going to add to that a box that will have rounded corners that I'll use to kind of contain the information. So I'm going to make a rounded rectangle. I can pretty much use any color for this because what I'm going to do is apply a blending mode, and I'm going to fit that in the safe area just inside of there. And then I'm going to try, and notice that made a new layer. Then I'm going to try several of the different transfer modes. A lot of times hard light is the one I'll end up going to, but try others. You can actually hit Shift plus and it toggles through those. Ooh, that's cool, huh? Let's do that one. Yeah. Okay, so that is an overlay blending mode. And now you notice I deselected the other layers there. I didn't want them visible because I want to merge those two layers together. So I can go up here to Layer and Merge Visible. And those two become one layer. It renamed them, so I'm going to change that back to full screen background. Can't remember what I had before. Okay, so that's done. And now what I would probably want to do next is put some text on it. So I changed the foreground color to white, and I'm going to put full screen text goes here. Select all that, center it up. It's typically what we do. Wherever you center, there you are. We can move that around by selecting away from the text. I mean, go back up here and change the font if we want to, or give it a drop shadow, or if we wanted to do that, we would need to select the text, go up here to layer style, or actually I don't think we needed to select it. But add a drop shadow there. Okay, so now it stands out pretty well. And now I'm done with that. That's how we would make full screen text graphics. And we can go back to working with this guy. Okay, next I'm going to create the lower third bars, but I forgot to save these colors. So I'm going to turn the full screen background back on and go to the eyedropper and sample some of these colors that we've kind of created now with the new settings we have with all the things that we've applied to it. So now I've got a dark blue and an even darker blue. I can turn that back off, go into the lower third bar, and I could make another gradient, which you could do by making a rectangle stretch out from usually the left side of the screen, and this goes up into about a third of the way up into the image, at least a fourth of the way. So I could put that across here, and then I could fill that with a gradient. Have to be on a layer. Target layer is hidden. I can't put it on a hidden layer. That won't work. So everything's off with this. Now I can make a gradient across here, and if I push the line for the gradient all the way across, it makes a real long, slowly transitioning gradient like that. Or I could undo that and just do a very short line. You notice how it has the light color there and the dark there. What I probably want to do is do it medium length. I've got a little white spot there. Or instead of all that, I could have done a rounded rectangle, which would have been just as good, which is actually what I'm going to do here for the title bar. So I'll put the name up there in the blue, and the title will be down here in this layer, which the title bar still got this overlay on it, which is kind of okay, but let's see what other looks would do. I think that's the one. Okay, so I'm going to go with those. I could also add some textures to those if I wanted to, or I could also put a drop shadow on it. Either way is fine. Let's just throw a texture on it for fun. And I'm going to put a drop shadow on it. Layer style, drop shadow. Neat. Okay, so these shapes combined form the lower third bar. And so what I want to do now is combine those into one layer. So I'm going to turn everything else off again. There's possibly better ways to do this. Somebody tell me tomorrow. I'm going to merge visible. Now I've got one layer and I need to rename it lower third bar. Okay, now I'm ready to do lower third text. So what I'm going to do is go back to black and white and put white in the foreground and create some text here. And I want to make it look similar to what the text I used on the other example. And I'm going to turn this guy back on so I can see kind of how this is all going to look together. And it's okay if the text falls over the edge of the bars. It doesn't have to fit so neatly in there. So I'm going to make it about 132 and position it where the C, the W, and L's, all those things kind of peek out of there. And I think I had put a drop shadow on that before, so I'm going to do that again. And then I'm going to switch down and put black down below just for fun. And I'm going to make this text a lot smaller because usually you de-emphasize the title compared to the name. And I always type media wrong. Oh, and it didn't do black. You have to choose that up here. Oh, there's black, media instructor. Of course, it doesn't really pop, so not sure if I'll like it, but I'm going to try an outer glow. Outer glows always pop up yellow. Let me change that to a white. Okay, I think that works. So that is my name and title, and you could rename those here name and title so people using these in the future know exactly what to do with them. I'm going to turn those off and turn off the lower third bar. Now we're going to create the OTS. And this part's the only one that's a little tricky. There's a few different ways you might want to do this, but what I like to do is use the elliptical marquee tool, or an oval, and I'm going to draw, starting off the screen, an oval where I've got a curve on the right side of the page. So I've got this nice curved area there, and that's what I'm going to want to use. And I'm also going to now change this back to a rectangle and hold down Shift, click somewhere above this flat space here, and add this to the selection. So now I've got all this stuff selected, and I've got this neat little curved column here. I'm going to invert the selection, and now I've got just this. Now I want to get those colors back. So I've got those colors on the lower third, so I need to eyedropper those. Go to that one, eyedropper down here. And I'm going to do another gradient. Since I like this texture so well, I'm going to use it again. I'm going to turn that OTS bar back on because that's where my target is now. Make sure you're targeting the right things. And I've got a nice gradient. And I'm going to put that same texturizer filter on it. I can go right back to the last filter I used, like this. And turn these off. So now I've got an OTS bar. I'm also going to create over here a black square. Okay. Now I'm going to create a square up here to be a placeholder for the images. If you've got things selected, you can always deselect them with any of the selection tools. And I'm just going to create a black box, and that's going to be where the pictures will go. Usually those are to the right or left of the anchor's head. So I've got a shape in there. Then I'm going to pick an image to put into there. So I'm going to use Amelia Earhart, open her in Photoshop. And I'm going to copy part of this image. So let's just get Amelia and her 3 friends. Oops, and I just made a rectangle. Alright, Amelia and friends, copy that, paste it into my image. And it's close to the size of that box, but not exactly. So what I'm going to do is put that below the box. And you could either try to size it up with pre-transform, or another thing we could do is use the magic wand tool to select the box. I need to be on the box layer to do that. So you could select the box a few different ways. I think I've got a mask turned on. I'm going to use the rectangle, size it up to the box, and then I'm going to go back to the layer which has Amelia Earhart on it, invert it under select, and delete. So I'm on the layer with Amelia, and it deletes that part, and then I'm going to put her back on top. So now I've got Amelia Earhart there. And now I need some OTS text. And I want to use the same fonts we've used before, but I'm going to put a funny headline or caption that goes with that, implying that Amelia Earhart didn't die, but she is now an astronaut. And we ended up creating a new pic there, so I'm going to label this OTS pic, and I'm going to delete this layer. And that's done. So we've got everything here that we're going to use all in one package. So you could turn this in to somebody and they could use this for their news graphics package and have a good idea of what the show would be like. So that's what you'll save and turn in.